When people think about personal finance, Robert Kiyosaki is one of the first names that comes to mind. His book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, has sold millions of copies and shaped how people view money across the world. While he is known for big concepts like assets versus liabilities, cash flow, and financial education, there is one very specific strategy that caught my attention. It is what he calls the $100 strategy. When I tried it myself, the impact on my financial habits and the way I saw money was far greater than I expected. Today, I am going to explain exactly what this strategy is, how I applied it, and why it might change the way you think about money forever. The core idea is surprisingly simple every time you receive money. Whether it is from your job, a side hustle, or even a gift, you immediately take out $100 and put it aside. But here is the twist. You are not allowed to spend that $100 on bills, entertainment, or random purchases. Instead, that money must be invested or placed into something that grows your wealth. Kiyosaki describes it as a psychological game that forces you to always be an investor, even if the amount feels small.
Number one, saving money will make you rich.
Yeah, it never will. You know that. Why would you save it and why would you work for it if they can print it at faster than you can work for it? And number two is they keep dropping the interest rates on it. Zero interest rate policy. And the Japanese are the biggest savers in the world. And I'm Japanese. I'm fourth generation.
At first, I was skeptical. How could setting aside just $100 at a time really make a difference in the bigger picture? But then I realized the purpose is not only the money itself, but the mindset it creates. Most people get their paycheck and immediately think about spending: rent, food, shopping, and travel. But the $100 strategy reverses that thinking. You pay yourself as an investor before you do anything else. When I started applying this strategy, the first challenge was discipline. It is easy to say you will put aside $100, but when bills and unexpected expenses arrive, it feels impossible. Yet Kiyosaki insists that the moment you say you cannot afford to invest is the moment you need to invest the most. Because if you cannot handle $100, how will you ever handle $10,000? That line struck me deeply. The first time I tried it, I took $100 from my paycheck and put it into a separate account. I promised myself it would not be touched for spending. I used it to buy a small amount of stock in a company I had researched. It was not much, but for the first time, I felt like I was genuinely building wealth instead of just working for money. Over the weeks, something started to shift. Every time I earned, I thought first about where that $100 would go. Some weeks, I put it into stocks. Other weeks, I bought books and courses that improved my skills. Once I even used it to start a small online side hustle. Each $100 move was not life-changing on its own, but the pattern of always investing first began to reshape how I viewed money. By the end of the first month, I had set aside $400 that was working for me. By the end of 3 months, it was $1,200. That might not sound huge, but here is the power. Instead of disappearing into random spending, that money was now seeds planted into investments and education that could multiply over time. This is the real magic of the $100 strategy. It is not about the number itself, it is about the habit. It conditions you to think like an investor no matter how much money you make. Robert Kiyosaki often says that poor people buy luxuries first, middle-class people buy liabilities thinking they are assets, but rich people invest first. The $100 strategy is a simple way to practice being rich before you are rich. Another powerful effect of this method is creativity. When you commit to always setting aside that $100, you force yourself to look for opportunities. Instead of saying, "I cannot afford it," you start asking, "How can I grow it?" One week, I used my $100 to buy materials for a small project that I later sold for a profit. Another week, I invested it into a dividend-paying stock that started giving me small passive income. That small stream of income felt like a breakthrough because it was money that came in without me working extra hours. Now, let me be honest, it is not always easy. There were times when I was tempted to skip it. A car repair, a medical bill, or just wanting to go out with friends made me think about breaking the rule. But I remembered Kiyosaki's words: the rule is not about comfort, it is about discipline. If you only invest when it is easy, you will never reach true financial freedom. Something else I noticed was how quickly the $100 strategy built momentum. Once I saw even small results, I wanted to push further. I began asking myself, what if I could set aside $200 instead of 100s? Soon, the strategy was not just about building wealth. It was about building identity. I stopped seeing myself as someone who spent money carelessly and started seeing myself as an investor, a builder, someone who made money work for me. That identity shift is priceless. Robert Kiyosaki often repeats the lesson that money is a game of mindset. The poor focus on earning a paycheck and spending it. The middle class focus on saving money but rarely invest. The wealthy focus on multiplying money. The $100 strategy is the bridge that moves you from one mindset to the next. It is simple enough for anyone to start, but powerful enough to change your entire financial trajectory if you stick with it. Over time, I noticed another benefit: confidence. When you start setting aside money consistently and see it growing, even in small ways, you feel more secure. You realize you are not completely dependent on a job or a paycheck because you are building a foundation that belongs to you. That sense of control reduces stress and increases courage to take new risks. Let me give you an example. Before using this method, I was afraid to invest because I thought I needed thousands of dollars to start. But once I got used to investing $100 at a time, I became more comfortable with the process. I learned how the stock market worked, how to analyze opportunities, and how to manage risk. Soon, I was investing larger amounts without fear. The habit of starting small gave me the courage to grow big. Of course, some people will say $100 is too little to make a difference. But here is the truth: it is not about the size, it is about the system. Just as athletes build muscle by lifting small weights before heavy ones, investors build discipline by investing small amounts before handling larger ones. The people who laugh at $100 are usually the same people who never build wealth at all. Another key insight Kiyosaki shares is that when you take money off the table for investments first, you stop lying to yourself about what you can afford. Too many people say they will invest if there is money left over. The problem is there is never money left over because lifestyle spending always expands to fill the income. By setting aside $100 first, you reverse the order. You invest first, then spend what is left. That is how real wealth is built. As I continued with this strategy, something unexpected happened. Friends and family started asking why I always seemed more relaxed about money. I explained the $100 rule, and some of them tried it too. One friend used it to start building an emergency fund, another used it to buy cryptocurrency, and another used it to pay for online classes that later helped him land a higher-paying job. That is when I realized the power of this method. It is universal. Whether you want to build investments, start a side hustle, or upgrade your skills, the $100 strategy can be applied. Over the long term, this approach also compounds. Imagine saving and investing $100 each week for 5 years. That is over $26,000 invested. Add in growth from stocks, business returns, or skill upgrades, and the actual value could be double or triple that. What seemed small at the beginning becomes massive over time because of consistency and compounding. So, what did this strategy really change in my finances? First, it gave me discipline. Second, it gave me confidence. Third, it created multiple small streams of income that continue to grow. And most importantly, it shifted my mindset from spender to investor. That is the real change. Robert Kiyosaki always says financial freedom does not come from what you earn, but from what you keep and grow. The $100 strategy is a simple yet powerful way to practice that principle. It is not about waiting until you are rich to start investing. It is about becoming an investor now, even with the smallest amount. Looking back, I can honestly say this strategy changed my financial path. It forced me to stop making excuses and start building habits that will serve me for life. If you are serious about changing your finances, you do not need to wait for a windfall or a huge salary. Start with $100. Protect it, grow it, repeat it. The results will shock you. The question is, will you actually do it?